I don't think you're capable of that. Not at this level, not in a room like this. 2 weeks later, the same man who looked at me like that would be the one turning back, lowering his voice, and asking me how to save the project. He could not carry on his own. And the strangest part was not the insult itself. It was how quickly the room decided. I was smaller than I really was. The strange part was this. When the meeting ended, I did not push back. And I did not stop anyone on the way out. I simply stood up and walked. I did not raise my voice. I did not turn back and explain myself. I did not make one last attempt to rescue how they had already decided to see me. And that was the exact moment they misread me. They thought silence meant weakness, when in fact, it only meant I had not spent my real move yet. It was not some dramatic moment at first, so I could wearing day. It was just a very ordinary meeting day, in a very ordinary office. A new project was sitting there in pieces, getting pulled apart, questioned, and examined, before it had even had a fair chance to stand. On its own, I offered my idea there. It was not perfect, not polished, enough to impress people who only listen to confidence. But it was serious, and it was built with care. And then the energy shifted in a way you can feel, before you can explain it. They were no longer testing the idea itself. They were starting to test me. And that was the part that stayed with me. They were not really arguing with the idea at all. They were arguing with me. And that is always a different kind of room. No one laughed, and that was the part that cut deeper. No one stepped in for you. No one even tried to soften what had just been said. I don't think you're ready for something like that. No one corrected him, no one said wait. Let him finish first, no one paused the room long enough to put the line back where it belonged. Do you know that feeling? The feeling when someone lowers you in a room, without even raising their voice, and everyone else watches it happen, by doing absolutely nothing. In moments like that, your body reacts, before your mind has any chance to catch up. Something inside you tightens. Before you can even explain what you are feeling, your heart starts racing faster than it should. Your face gets hot, your jaw locks, and your whole body begins preparing for a fight, before you have chosen one. And then your mind narrows into a single command. Prove them wrong, not later, not eventually, right now. Right there in that room, I wanted to push back. I wanted to cut in before he owned the whole room. I wanted to take my face back, before that silence hardened into something permanent. But I said nothing, not because I had no anger, and not because I had nothing to say. I said nothing because that first reaction was not the move I wanted to live with. And this is the part people almost never see clearly. The most dangerous thing was not the sentence itself. It was what that sentence was trying to plant inside me, after it was over. Because the real damage begins in the moment. You stop seeing yourself through your own judgment, and start looking at yourself through theirs. You leave the meeting, but the eyes from that room leave with you. They keep walking beside you, long after the actual people are gone. And then the questions start sounding like your own voice. Maybe they were right. Maybe I am not enough. That is when their contempt stops living in their mouth, and starts living in your head. Then I remembered something cold. Their opinion belongs to them. My reaction belongs to me. Stoic does not confuse someone's judgment with reality. They may think I am not good enough. That is still only their judgment. They are allowed to think whatever they want about me. But the moment I explode, or start begging them to recognize me, I hand them the wheel that was the turning point. Not silence, not surrender. Just the moment I took the wheel back in. That moment I saw the first option clearly. Get angry, push back fast, and lose the room before you even finish the sentence. The second option looked quieter, but it lost in a different way. Say nothing because you are afraid. Then sit there with the work still open, and your mind completely gone. So I chose the third option. Come back cold, sit down. Open the file again, return not with emotion, but with evidence. That was the difference. I stopped trying to protect my image in the moment, and started increasing the weight of what I could bring back. That same afternoon I opened the entire project again. I went back to the brief, and forced myself to read it with colder eyes. I checked every weak point in the logic. I rebuilt the structure, with people who could help sharpen it. Not just nod at it, I rebuilt the proposal. And I rehearsed it out loud, until the words stopped sounding defensive, and started sounding exact. I prepared for the hardest questions too. Not to do more work than everyone else, but to go deeper than I had the first time. I was not doing all of that to win one sentence.
That moment
I was
someone
doing
truly
it so that
listens,
next
it feels
time,
like everything
I would
around
not
suddenly
need
slows
anyone's
down.
permission to be
It's deeply
believed.
quiet. Understood.
1 week later we
I'm
were
ready to
back in
walk
the
you
same
through it.
room, at the same table with the same people. But the air inside it was no longer the same. That moment someone truly listens. It feels like everything around suddenly slows down. It's deeply quiet, understood. I'm ready to walk you through it. This time I did not need to fight for space. I opened the work and the room followed it. This time no one smirked, no one cut in. They listened, and some of them started writing, before I had even finished the point. And the man who once looked down on me stayed quiet. I did not look at him, I looked at the work. Being underestimated hurts, but it leaves behind something. People who always need approval almost never get it. Gives you space, and when people look down on you, that space can become the place where you build something real. You do not need to perform it. You do not need to over-explain it. You do not need to ask anyone in the room to clap for it. You only need to do one thing now: quietly increase your weight until the room has no choice but to feel it. In life there will always be people who meet you before they ever meet your real ability. They will think you are not sharp enough, not strong enough, not ready enough. Let them think that. Their biggest mistake is not underestimating you. It is believing their opinion is powerful enough to define what happens to you next. Their opinion is not your limit. Your reaction is what can become that limit if you hand it the power. If you have ever been underestimated like that, leave one comment, increase your weight. And if you like videos that do not teach you to swallow your anger, to keep the wheel, subscribe. Someone you know may need this today.